your net savings will get larger and larger, and you will have that cash available to make investments. What can you do with $1,700, $1,800? That's like 2 vacations. I truly believe our system here in the States is set up to trap you in debt and make you think it's okay and make you think it's normal. Welcome back to Life Worth Chasing. I'm your host, Chase Maher, and this show is about helping entrepreneurs build their business around their dream lifestyle. All right, so something that I really wanted to talk about today, and I really enjoy talking about this with others, like finances and personal finances. And something that's kind of gathered or gained a lot of attention, and like the buzzword lately is the latte factor. And people, spending $5-6 a day on coffee and all this other things. And I think that that's definitely an issue, and I'm going to give my thoughts about that, but it's just a microcosm. It's really just a small example of the larger issue of keeping up with the Joneses and the system, the economic system, really set up for failure. So I want to talk a little bit about a few things. I want to talk about the math of small purchases every single day. We'll talk about some larger purchases like auto loans, good debt versus bad debt, taking out loans, things like that. And then I'm going to give you just some quick financial rules of thumb. This is not going to be a podcast where we're going to jump into the weeds and confuse you or talk any complex stuff. This is like simple rules of thumb, simple everyday things that if you follow these, I promise you your net savings will get larger and larger, and you will have that cash available to make investments. It all starts with making small steps in the right direction and building habits and building that mental clarity so that when you're approached with larger decisions, you have that mental clarity, you have that mental strength and education to make the right decision. So let's start first with small purchases, the latte factor. Okay. So according to a report from Acorn's Money Matters, 41% of nearly 2,000 millennials, so born 1980 to 1996, of nearly 2,000 millennials, 41%, surveyed admitted to spending more on their morning brew than contributing toward their retirement plan. Now, I'm not one of those people that's like all in on like 401ks and IRAs and things like that and putting it into the market. I'm more of a real estate person. If you have a job plan with your employer where they match it, dude, take advantage of that and max that thing out. That's much more important than grabbing a latte at Starbucks. So let's go into the math, okay? Because not many people talk about the math. They just talk about the headline. So according to another study, people aged 25 to 34, millennials, spend on average $2,000 a year, whereas the next closest group, ages 35 to 44, only spend $1,400. So let's talk about the millennials. I think most of the listeners are millennials like myself. That's $2,000 a year. That's $6 a day. All right. So either you're drinking like one of those Frappuccino, Yokadoke, caramel squirting, whatever you want to call it, $6 cups a day, 365 days a year, or you're doing about $2-3 cups a day. Either way, it's pretty ridiculous. So let's jump into it. Okay. I own a drip coffee maker, a really good one that's going to last me like 5-7 years, off Amazon for $100. Okay. You can buy coffee off Amazon or your local store, or I get it at Costco in bulk, like super high-end organic coffee, anywhere from 50 cents to $1 an ounce. Okay. So now you might be thinking, well, how many ounces per cup? Okay. I like my coffee strong. So a half ounce of coffee per cup. I drink about a cup a day. So that means the half ounce of coffee is about 25 cents to 50 cents. Okay. So going further from there, if you spend $2,000 a year on coffee, if you do it my way, where you just make it at home, all right, it's $280 a year. That's including a new coffee maker every single year. Okay. So if we were to take out the coffee maker every year, that's only $180. So the average American is spending $2,000 a year on coffee. My way, you'd be spending $280 at most, but likely much closer to $200. That's a savings of $1,700 to $1,800 a year. Now, you might be thinking, well, dude, $1,700 to $1,800, that's not going to get me rich. I know these small purchases and the savings on them are not going to get you rich. A penny earned is much better than a penny saved. And what I mean by that is it's all about your income and increasing your income rather than nickel and diming here and there. But this is going to build that fortitude, that mental clarity, that skill set to save in other areas of life. But what can you do with $1,700, $1,800? That's like 2 vacations. I took a flight to Bali that was $900. And it was like a good one with the relaxed seats and everything on a good airline. And most people say all the time, well, I can't afford to travel. I can't afford this. Well, you're spending $6 a day on coffee, bro. So, kind of check yourself and work on that and you'll have some savings. What else is $1,700 or $1,800? That's 2 months rent for a lot of people. Maybe not here in San Diego, but for a lot of people. That's like a really high-end laptop. That's like, a pretty solid camera. Dude, it's a lot of things. So run the math. Ask yourself, are you making the right decisions in that area? And, dude, you could even take that $1,700 or $1,800 and you could buy a few things on Craigslist and turn that into $5,000 pretty easily. Then that $5,000 is $10,000. Then you can take that $10,000 and you can start doing some serious stuff with it. I truly believe that people spend so much on coffee because they're bored and they're like, oh, let's go and let's get a coffee and I'm going to do this drive through to get a coffee real quick. And it's out of boredom. It's not because they need it or a lot of times because they super want it. I truly believe it's because they're bored and they haven't taken the time to just make it at home and save a ton of money. So stop doing so much coffee, start saving some money. And whether you invest it by flipping some things or you put it to good use for your own personal reasons, I promise you, you will benefit. Okay, next up, large purchases. Let's talk about auto, okay? So I truly believe our system here in the States is set up to trap you in debt and make you think it's okay and make you think it's normal. So all these advertisements, interest rate and money down and all these things on cars that the people actually can't afford. It's pretty crazy. So let's start first with the question of should I lease or should I own? And most people, when they own, they don't actually own it. The bank owns it. But that's beside the point. So when to lease? Okay, this is the only time that you should lease. When you're self-employed and you don't drive more than about 10,000 miles a year. And you like or need to have a new car pretty often, like every 2 or 3 years. That's the only time you should lease. So I see a lot of real estate agents that go out and lease some super nice vehicle. You see, all kinds of like self-employed people that lease these nice vehicles. And that's okay because as a business owner, you can write it off, which is pretty cool. And you don't drive a lot, so your payment isn't super high. Everybody else should own their vehicle. And call me crazy for this one, you should pay cash. And if you can't pay cash for it, then you got other problems, not just your vehicle. It doesn't matter about keeping up with the damn Joneses, okay? So you should pay cash, and you're about to think I'm even crazier. You should have the cash savings to buy that vehicle minimum 5 times, but I live by the rule of thumb of if I can buy it 10 times, I'll buy it. Okay? So pay cash, have the savings to where you can buy it at least 5 times over. Then you got your finances in order, you have your life in check, and you can go out and get that vehicle. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, like, dude, I don't have that much money. I can't get a nice enough car. Then don't buy the car that you want and work your ass off until you can get it. Make a goal. Did you know that auto loans are the highest delinquency rate since 2008, and the average auto debt for Americans in the United States is $18,000? The average American debt is $18,000, so they're driving around a vehicle they don't own, and they owe $18,000 on it, and they have to pay for all the maintenance and all that. Just a ton of mistakes go into the auto industry. And it's pretty quite sad. There's not much like education or training or anything to teach people like how much they're getting ripped off at this stuff. But if you want to keep, keeping up with the Joneses, you do your thing. Okay, let's talk about good debt versus bad debt, okay? So you might have heard this before, good debt versus bad debt. Let me talk first about bad debt. Bad debt is like high interest debt, credit cards. I just read that the average American is in $8,200 worth of credit card debt. So if the average American spends $2,000 a year on coffee, they're in $18,000 worth of auto debt, they're in $8,200 worth of credit card debt. That's pretty sad. That's pretty messed up and pretty scary. And it makes you think that this next recession, this next bubble that bursts that we go into, maybe it's not going to be real estate or so much the market, but these student loans, these auto loan debts that are getting delinquent, and these credit card debts that are getting delinquent, that's going to cause a major, major problem. And it starts by fixing that now. So we're going to talk here in a few minutes about financial rules of thumb and how you can fix that debt situation. Okay. The next form of bad debt is loans from family and friends. Okay, here's a rule of thumb. If you have to take a loan out to buy something, you either don't need it or you don't deserve it because you haven't structured your finances in a way to afford it. Okay, so if you want to use your credit card in an advantageous way where you pay it off every single month and you can take advantage of the points, myself, I take advantage of credit card points so I can fly for free anytime I want. I know other people. I heard a story the other day. My friend Nicholas Bayerly is good friends with a guy named Brandon Poulin. Brandon is the CEO of Lady Boss Weight Loss. And I heard that Brandon, he lives off of his cash back that his business pays for credit cards. Okay, that's a smart way to use credit cards. Not a smart way is buying things that you can't actually afford and just worrying and pushing the can down the road, worrying about it later on how to pay it off. People, you got to stop doing that. You're going to throw yourself into the hole if you haven't already, okay? So let's talk about good debt. Cash flowing debt is good debt. What I mean by that is debt that you use as leverage to create income. So debt that you use to buy cash flowing real estate. That is good debt. That's debt that you get at 4 to 5%, but the property cash flows at 10%, and you're making the difference. That's good debt. That's the kind of debt that you can take when you don't have a bunch of auto loan debt and a bunch of credit card debt. Funny how that works. The people supplying the good debt don't want to serve out the good debt to the people with the bad debt. I know that's a lot of debt in there, but fix the issues, and it starts with the bad debt. Okay, now let me tell you about ninja debt. Okay, this is more commonly known as arbitrage debt. Let me give you a little story. So recently I took out a line of credit for $25,000 that I pay 10% on, and I pay no points on that. So I can use it anytime I want. It's as good as cash. The bank gave it to me. So what am I going to do with this? I don't pay anything on it until I use it. Now I can take that $25,000 and I can put it into a piece of real estate that cash flows at 15%. So now I've taken $25,000 that wasn't mine, put it into a piece of real estate that serves back 15%, and I can net the 5% difference. Now that might not be a lot at $25,000, but after I do it a couple times, the bank will start lending me $100,000, $500,000, $1 million. This same concept. My mentor, who I interviewed the other day, has this same type of line of credit for $5 million. Now you start to see 5% of $5 million as cash flow for money that you didn't even have to put yourself into the property. It's the bank's money. You start to see some ninja arbitrage debt there. You can't get to that point if you have a bunch of bad debt. So fix your debt issues, people. All right, lastly, financial rules of thumb to live by. Number 1, pay pay off high interest bad debt. Number 2, save 3 to 6 months of living expenses. This is like your rainy day fund. You get super sick, an injury, you lose your job, your business isn't making any money. They say that nobody ever sleeps easiest until they know they have a cash cushion. All right. Number 3, pay cash for your vehicle and be able to buy it at least 5 times. I live by 10 times. Number 4, contribute to either a 401k, an IRA, or invest in real estate. All right. And number 5, you've done all the first 4 and you still have cash left over. Number 5 is when you start doing speculative investments like Bitcoin. Maybe it's 1, 3, or 5% of your net worth and you just want to play around with it. Hey, get after it. You got everything else in order. All right. I'm going to drop a couple resources in the show notes, resources to really good credit cards that I use, some resources to some books that I've read on finances to go ahead and get you started. This is just like a little jumpstart for you, but the main focus is pay off that bad debt, stop taking out loans for vehicles, start contributing to either investment or real estate, and don't do the Bitcoin stuff until you got it all figured out. Okay? See you on the next show. Thanks for listening to Life Worth Chasing with me, your host, Chase Maher. If you like the show, smash that subscribe button, leave me a rate and review. You know what? Screenshot the show, share it on Instagram, tag me at I am Chase Maher, and I'll repost it. There's hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and you've made the decision to listen to mine, which is so cool. I'll see you on the next show.